What's up guys, I'm Phoenix Master 1 and welcome to my Attuned Alm Shadows of Valentia Banner breakdown. I'm gonna be explaining all of the units and breaking them down in simple language, and because this game has got power creep, I thought I would also power creep my videos a bit. So I have tried to improve with the simplifications and also the graphics, so let me know if you have any kind of feedback. So you can see the description on the left and the simplification on the right. So here we have got Attuned Alm as a colorless bow infantry unit, and we just have Legendary Alm in the Hall of Forms. I'm definitely going to be going over the comparison, but right now as an attuned unit, he's not going to be vanishing from my barracks, and you can use him to fodder him for Speed Taker and his Echo Scale. And he is inspired by Celica with his outfit. I definitely like his cape. I think that's my favorite part of it. So taking a look at his preferred weapon, he has got True Bond Bow, which has got -1 special cooldown, and it also has the Aerial Maneuvers Warp built in it. So this is similar to the warping that Celica is known for, but you know, Alm is only able to have the Aerial Maneuvers warping. So I think that this is really good for the flexibility because this enables him to function as a nuke without lingering, so he can go in and then nuke something and retreat with the salvage status of Legendary Sakura. So if you are not caught up with the meta of FEH right now, Legendary Sakura is absolutely insane because she can just ignore the Kanto control in a way with her salvage status and with all of the things that she brings, and it just allows your nukes to go in and nuke super far away and Kanto without any kind of recourse. So it's really good along with all of the player phase tools we have got, and Alm is able to do something like that. He can run past in his slot B and get over the warp blocking skills because lower ground, higher ground barricade is really common. So if you're going to be functioning with the warping, then I think that pass is a legitimate option that he could run because he does have good amount of true damage to still nuke really well. So you could try and make him like a bit of a aided Yunaka, but of course, you know, aided Yunaka is completely on a different level because of the pass that she has got, the warping and everything, and of course active lookout. So the warping is nice, and he also provides the support to his 2-space allies and himself. So at sort of every single turn, he's going to be giving attack speed great talent +2, and this can go up to +10, and this can help you snowball, so this does help the other allies. And for Alm himself, this actually helps a ton because he does scale off his true damage and flat damage reduction with the great talent. It's definitely really unique thing that he does compared to any other unit, and he does stack up the Speed Taker great talent to his speed along with this in his weapon. So he can actually snowball really hard, and there isn't really any kind of other unit who, you know, takes advantage of the great talent as much as he does right now. And then he also gives -2 special cooldown if the cooldown is at max, and if your cooldown is max -1 value, then you get cooldown -1. So this kind of pre-charging can be helpful if you're running any kind of AoE nuke, and this especially helps with non-infantry units that do not have the easiest time pre-charging, like Attuned Micaiah is a great example because she often runs Astra as her special to nuke a lot of the Far Saviors. So I think they can make for a good team because Alm can deal with the you know, units on the physical level, and then Micaiah deals with them on the magical level. So you can only give lingering to one of them, but both of them can kind of complement each other in terms of nuking. So even though we have got a lot of cooldown support, I do like this support on him because he is an exceptionally strong nuke. So the fact that he's able to do multiple things is always helpful for the shelf life essentially, and then he's able to get the stats depending on the allies in 3 rows and 3 columns multiplied by 3, and this is added by 5, and this can go up to Omni +14, which is pretty standard stuff. But what is not standard is the true damage and the flat damage reduction on the first attacks that he gets. So the ceiling of this is really high, like 30 true damage is more than what Ninja Lucina has got. And I mean, Ninja Lucina is a brave attacking unit, but Alm is going to be hitting extremely hard, and then he has got this true damage. So he's doing the big damage that a lot of the other Alms are known for. And the way it scales is by using the total value of the attack and speed great talent multiplied by 2, and this can go up to 30. And now you would think that this is maybe not the most realistic way of stacking up the true damage and flat damage reduction, but keep in mind that he is gonna be stacking up the great talent with Speed Taker. So this is not the hardest to snowball, but it also isn't gonna be the easiest to immediately get the full thing out of it. I'm mainly mentioning the ceiling of it because I think that is important, because you are able to scale these kinds of effects better in the future as we get more options on them, so it can help. And as we get more great talent units, I think it is going to be helping him even more reach his ceiling. And he also gets that 30 flat damage reduction, so this is quite an amazing amount of damage reduction, especially with the damage reduction that is unpierceable out of his true lunar flash. So he is going to be deceptively bulky, and he's certainly going to be able to survive a lot of counterattacks of Far Saviors, and he is an extremely good nuke. So the nukes that are able to survive your counterattacks are even more annoying, as they're going to be doubling you, and with your slow tanks and slow Far Saviors, you're really not going to be having the option of not getting doubled against them in the ideal scenarios. And then finally, he's able to heal up 7 HP after the combat. So his weapon is really good, but his special is the X factor for him. So this is True Lunar Flash, and it has got 3 cooldowns. So with his weapon, it becomes 2 cooldown. Then with his effect, he pre-charges that Lunar Flash immediately. So that can help him trigger that first, and then he gets the Slotsy preempt pulse on the follow-up attack, and then he triggers that on his follow-up attack. So it is going to be hitting extremely hard, and even more so if you try and support him with Bridal Catria or Winter Cordelia, with the Brave Hits, with the Lind Ring, and it is going to be treating as if the foe's defense or resistance is reduced by 35%, so that is quite a lot, and the damage that you get out of this is going to be boosted by 35% of his speed, and he is extremely fast. He has got the great talent, so this does scale really well with the things that he has got. And just like his previous specials, it is going to be giving him the full damage reduction piercing, so you don't really have to worry about any kind of pierceable damage reduction whatsoever, as he's going to be constantly triggering the special. And the reason why he is an insane nuke is because of this next effect, which is going to be disabling foes' defensive specials. This means that your shield fighter armors with Aegis are not going to be triggering their Aegis, and he's going to be nuking them so hard that they're going to be dying. Yeah, you may have miracle support from Duo Rhea, but he's gonna bring you down to that. And if you run, Fatal Smoke or something like that, or give him the null miracle support, then he is simply gonna be ignoring that. So the reason why it is so insane is because we previously had this on Fogado, and while Fogado was there to counter Duo FJORM, he wasn't the consistent counter, because he always had to stack up that speed to kill her and to double her. Otherwise, he would simply not kill her. But here, Alm is going to be able to one-shot a lot of armors because he triggers his special easily right off the bat. And this special is busted because it scales off his speed. And in case you don't die in a single hit, then he has got 30 flat damage reduction and then 40% unpierceable damage reduction in this special. So this is once per combat, but this is going to be helping you survive. And just imagine the potential that you can have for the survival if you run him with Ymir and her miracle support. Like, there's not much that can kill him really. You may even have Brave Attack support with Desert Marissa on your Far Savior, but still, Alm is going to be quite bulky with this. So that's the real threat for a lot of the tanks. Sure, you might survive first hit, but the second hit is going to be deadly. And this is a trend that we're seeing. Shield Fighter is getting started to get countered with Valentine Edelgard and then Legendary Ira when it comes to the near saviors. And now we're really seeing it in full action with a range unit like Attuned Alm. I mean, we did have Fogado, but as I explained, Attuned Alm is simply functioning on a different level. It's just not comparable in my opinion, and he is an infantry unit, so he has got way more options than Fogado ever can as a cavalry unit. So by now you can see how insane of a nuke he is, and he is really going to be one of the best nukes in the entire game because It's just something that you cannot emulate or replicate with any other unit. You're not able to disable the defensive specials. And the thing with Aegis and these kinds of defensive specials is that they do not get affected by scal effect. So your Future Witness, your Hush Spectrum doesn't really help you against these kinds of defensive specials, and these are your options of, killing them. And Alm also has really good skills. Kinda insane that he has got almost the same build that I did recommend in my Hall of Forms guide. And he has got perfect attack speed with full null follow-up, which is needed to double the tanks, so they're really not going to be able to avoid his doubles. And Speed Taker is there for the true damage. He gets another layer of true damage, and this also gives him the null guard. So this is useful, but as I said, there are scenarios where sometimes having pass with the warping that he has got may be really, really good. And then he has got Pulse on Blade, so this is a very unique skill, even though this is like another Pulse on or that kind of cooldown skill. But the reason why it's so unique is because it gives you the preempt pulse -2 before your first follow-up attack. And the reason why it's so good is because it's relatively easy to front load your specials with preempt pulse support, with every tool that you've got, like Creation Pulse, and then the support of the other units. But on the follow-up attack, triggering the special does take a bit of planning, or previously it took the quad hits or pled skill, the special charges, something like that. But now the fact that you're able to get this follow-up preempt pulse just is really good for nuking, as you're able to avoid the scal, because most of the scal effects outside of Veil, Fallen Veil and Spring Veil that is only on the first attack, and here you're triggering your special on your follow-up attack. So they're not going to be having much of a protection. You're going to be exhausting probably their Sturdy Beast on the first attack as you trigger the special, and if they do not have the twin save, then they're not getting the damage reduction again. And if they are a shield fighter armor, you ignore their Aegis. So you can see how this is really effective, and this is something that I've really wanted, because as I said, it's really easy to hit the special on your first attack, but the real challenge is on the follow-up attack. So unfortunately for Aspel, this pretty much washes up his Refine in a way. I mean, sure, you could also run Creation Pulse and everything, but a lot of units can pretty much replicate that now. And you also get the extra stats to your attacking speed, so this is kind of similar to Time Pulse Edge. And then he has got Lull Echo, so this is only inheritable to infantry and cavalry units, just like the actual Lull skills. Flyers and armors cannot have it. You get Omni -4, and you also ignore any kind of visible buffs of the enemies. So on infantry units, this is definitely going to be having competition with Time Pulse Echo, with Null Counter Disrupt Echo if you're a tank, and also with Tempo Echo if you're a nuke. So it is going to be competitive, but on the cavalry units, they don't really have that many options. There's like Mercy Wing Echo, and then absolute meme options like Deathblow Echo, which doesn't really result in much unless you have some kind of brave weapon in the player phase. And you do have Fortress Echo as a range cavalier, but now you can try and compress the Trace effect and the Canto and the Piercing with your Slot B skill, like the Spring Veil Slot B skill, Resound skills basically. So that way you're able to have another Echo skill and have another effect going on for you. So this does help a lot of the cavalry units, but unfortunately this is the Attuned Chimera Syndrome. By that I mean you're not able to inherit all of the skills in a single inherit, because Speed Taker is going to be eating up 4 slots of inheritance. So either you choose the Lull Echo with it, or you choose Pulse on Blades, or you choose Perfect Attack Speed. You're not able to have everything with Speed Taker. And if you're a cavalry unit, then you just give up on Speed Taker, and you also give up on Pulse on Blades and Perfect Attack Speed, because it's infantry only. So that kind of sucks a bit if you're, having this on a cavalier. You don't really have that many skills compatible with the infantry and the cavaliers. It's just, kind of opposite of both worlds, as cavalry units have trace skills and everything, and the skills that infantry units cannot get. So that is going to be a bit of a challenge, and you also cannot get all of the skills even if you're an infantry unit. And now for the question that I'm getting asked a lot right now is, should you consider Legendary Alm that is in the Revival Holoforms, or you should focus on Attuned Alm. Now obviously the new unit here that has just come out is going to be better. That should be no surprise, but I wouldn't say that he completely outclasses Legendary Alm in a way, because Attuned Alm plays slightly differently than Legendary Alm. Now functionally speaking, Attuned Alm is going to be superior, of course, ignoring the defensive specials, but Legendary Alm has got a niche where he has got the sweep effect. So the thing with him is that if you target the Far Saviors with Bridal Catria or Winter Cordelia support, you simply do not care how hard they can hit you back, because you're not getting hit back because of your wind sweep effect. Now sure, dragons are a problem like Duo Rhea, and it is going to be a bit shaky if we get more dragons that are capable Far Saviors. But Legendary Alm is still going to be having that niche of the sweep effect, and that is unique because while you can try and emulate it with the flash status of Rearmed Layla and other units, it is cleansed by Freyr. You could also inflict the middle of the turn flash status with a healer. I do like to use my Mercedes with that, but the thing is that you're going to be having the Lin Ring on your healer then. It's not going to be on Legendary Alm, so I wouldn't say it is like a complete one-to-one power creep. Of course, as I said, Attuned Alm is certainly better. There's, not much of an argument, but I wouldn't say you should lose your entire steam if you were to redeem Legendary Alm. And there's also another thing that, as I said, you're not able to completely inherit all of these skills to Legendary Alm in a single inherit, even if you get Attuned Alm. So it's not exactly something that you may be able to replicate without using the Pharma Soul. So I'm personally still going to be getting my Legendary Alm on the main account because, as I said, the tech option can be helpful in different game modes with the sweep effect, and we just have another nuke is just that he's not on the level of this Alm, and there's also the fact that he's an Earth Legendary unit. Now of course he doesn't really score that high. He is also not always usable in Ether Raids, but when he's the bonus unit, then he could help in the scoring. So if you haven't plus 10 merge, there is going to be, once in a blue moon time where he is going to be helping you. And now after the in-depth analysis on Attuned Alm, who has got an ult after such a long time, let's move on to the other main unit of the banner in Rearmed Nuibaba. So she is definitely a pretty memorable minor villain because her map is so annoying, and that map is such an uphill battle. Literally. So Nuibaba here is going to be giving you Arcane Blue Tome. That is the third one, and it is going to be Arcane Medusa. Really cool name, and this does have -1 special cooldown, and it does give you the Anathema status, which we did have on Ninja Tharja. So this is kind of like a Tharja's Hex type of effect, and that is basically speed, defense, resistance, hold. So it's not exactly a big range debuff in the modern times like a Crux effect, but still it is helpful. And it's definitely a bit odd because Nuibaba is not the fastest unit herself, but this is ideally going to be helping those kinds of units. And even if you're not fast, it is going to be giving you a bit of extra, debuff in the combat against the enemy, always to you, the user. So it does help a bit with the damage output, and then you get +14 to all of your stats, just like any kind of modern arcane weapon. So this is something that we were missing with Arcane Euphoria and Thunder. And then it also gives you true damage based on 15% of your attack, including the AoE specials. And this is why Arcane Euphoria was preferred vastly over Thunder, because the true damage is important. And now we do have Devoted Cup Plus, which does have really high ceiling of true damage at 25. So it is quite insane, and you would need like 170 attack to get 25 true damage out of Arcane Medusa. And obviously that kind of true damage is served to you on a platter with Devoted Cup Plus, an inhittable weapon, but the trade-off is that it doesn't have the stats or the preempt pulse or the flat damage reduction, and of course not the slaying or the anathema. So there is the trade-off, and you also debuff the enemies with the discord and the speed resistance debuff. So on certain older units or dancers, it is preferred just doubling down on their support with the pulse of ploy skills or any kind of ploy skill. And if you're not able to get Arcane Medusa for your favorite blue mage, then it's fine. until you get another chance. You could still use Devoted Cup Plus. It's still an extremely strong weapon if you use it well. Again, it's just that you're not going to be getting the extra stats. And then this Arcane Medusa Tome does give you 7 flat damage reduction on the first attacks. It also has the Preempt Pulse, but it is not exactly a Preempt Pulse for the AoE specials like Arcane Truthfire, so it does differ a bit. So nowadays we are seeing these kinds of arcane weapons have the basic effects on all of them, like the flat damage reduction, true damage, and the Preempt Pulse plus 14, and then they switch up one effect or the other. And of course, being a rearmed unit, Nuibaba is also not going to be vanishing from a barracks, and her fodder is good. Unfortunately, she doesn't come with Frost Moon. I would have loved to have that, but I guess they want you to duplicate that. I've already tried to duplicate it with my Rearmed Ophelia, as I did have some extra copies, so it was convenient. Nuibaba here does have Slime Mirror, which is one of the best skills for a player phase nuke, because you get the true damage on every single hit, you get a lot of resistance and attack, and then you do have her preferred skill in mounting fear. So at start of turn, this is going to be inflicting the panic, exposure, and deep wounds on the foes that have less resistance than her and that are in 2 spaces of another foe. So it is going to be easy to inflict because she does have insanely high resistance at base 47, and then you're going to be running Still War's Sacred Seal most likely, and you also could opt for the super boon potentially that she may have. So this is going to be an easy support that she can give to your teammates. Of course, this is something that you can cleanse with Freyr, but against Attuned Micaiah and Ninja Saline, Panic and Exposure are actually going to be getting cleansed, and then Deep Wounds is going to be staying. So it does help you overwhelm the enemy teams that do not have Freyr. I would have liked Null Miracle because I think that would have been better suited for taking on Duorea, because Deep Wounds is completely negated by Divine Nectar. So it's a bit annoying, as a lot of teams do use Hathrin support, both Mythic and Duo Hathrin depending on their team composition. And then she inflicts -5 attack and resistance debuff. She gets another layer of true damage based on 20% of her resistance, and this is nice because if her attack is getting debuffed heavily, then at least she's going to be having the resistance to fall back upon. And then it has got 50% damage reduction piercing built in it, so she doesn't really need any kind of piercing immediately. Even Frost Moon is not something she immediately needs because she does have some piercing, but I would say that Frost Moon is the best special for her because it does have the Preempt Pulse that is there as an insurance if you're not able to double the enemy, so you're able to pretty much nuke with it. And then finally it has got the Bane effect on its first attack. So this is the exact same Bane effect in the special of Rearmed South. So the best way to explain this is that it is similar to False Wipe in Pokemon. You leave your foe at 1 HP, and in the mainline games this kind of effect, or even the Medusa's effect that Nuibaba has got, is really annoying. But in reality in FEH, it's not the same because we have a lot of damage reduction, and even any kind of pierceable damage reduction is going to be affecting it. So what is basically going to be happening is that your damage is going to be getting set depending on whatever HP your enemy has got -1. So if you're facing an enemy with 50 HP, you're basically going to be having a set damage at 49. But this isn't really hard and fast set damage. It is going to be getting manipulated by any pierceable damage reduction. She does have 50% piercing. However, you're not able to pierce the flat damage reduction or unpierceable damage reduction. So in actuality, the Bane effect is not as good as it looks on paper, because rarely against any kind of competent tank, you're going to be leaving them at like 1 HP. It's just not going to be happening. It's just so much support out there, so many skills with the flat damage reduction. And I guess they realized it because they had to put this effect along with the other effects that still, stand up on their own in a skill like this. And then we have got Time Pulse Helm, which is basically attack resistance variant of Time Pulse Edge of Desert Ike. So you get extra attack and resistance in combat, depending on your special count value at max. So it is going to be just giving you more stats, and it is objectively better than Time Pulse 4 if you are needing to have any kind of extra attack or resistance. So in something like Hollow Forms, just get this skill over Time Pulse 4. So that is going to be Rearmed Nuibaba, giving you the updated Arcane Tome to your blue mages, and she herself is a pretty decent unit. Nothing too spectacular, but decent enough because she does have the debuffs and also good amount of true damage, and then some piercing, and Bane is, you know, another thing that she can do, I suppose. We then have Nomah, and he is a premium 5-star unit as a green infantry mage, which I'm really happy about. So he is going to be fairly unique with the thing that he has got with the warping. So he has got Prior's Tome as his preferred weapon, minus some special cooldowns, slaying, the standard stuff, but he does have Wings of Mercy for warping enabled on his allies if he's in 2 spaces of any kind of Aether Raid's offense trap, and no matter its state, if it's triggered, disarmed, you know, if it's the fake one, or if it looks like an Aether Raid's offense trap, then he's going to be enabling the warping, and this kind of beacon effect is useful. But nowadays we just have so many tools of player phasing that it's not the main one, and there's also a lot of warp blocking out there with higher ground, lower ground. So if you do not have pass, then you're not going to be able to freely warp in like that, like the older days, where, you know, Emblem Celica Ring came out and it was just so overwhelming. So nowadays the warping has got a bit more counter. So that's why, you know, Nomah's main thing is not all that insane. And then he has got Omni Guidance 4, which allows any kind of unit to warp. So that kind of support is good. And then he has got the 2-space joint drive to himself and the allies in 2 spaces. So he gives out the +5 attack and resistance in the combat. And then he enjoys himself and for his allies the attack and resistance null debuffs and 7 HP healing after the combat. So it's decent support on top of the warping that he can provide. It's mainly going to be a neat thing that can help you as a tech option. But as I said, if you consistently want to take advantage of it, then you're going to be needing to have some kind of pass. And I mean, some units do have pass built in their weapon, like Emblem Celica. So it's kind of nice that Nomah enabled her warping, but she can already warp so much. So he does get around like +17 to 20 attack and resistance in the combat, and he does get the extra attack and resistance for himself. So this does help scaling off his true damage out of the effect in his weapon that does give him that based on 20% of his resistance outside of the AoE specials. And then finally, because of being a slow unit, he does have the guaranteed follow-up attack. So certainly not on the same level of another old man that we've got in this game in Athos. And Nomah here does not have the best slot B inheritable skill. Again, Frost Moon would have been nice on a unit like this. I would have loved that. And Athos and Nomah both having Frost Moon would have been a nice parallel, as they are pretty much the same archetype of units that, you know, join you super late in the game. And then he has got Pulse Deploy, which is finally present in the normal summon pool, which is really great because previously it was on Rune and Athos, and these are premium units that are not the easiest to get, and they also have inherent value because of being a mythic unit. But here Nomah is going to be providing that, and Pulse Deploy is simply an incredible skill because it does not give you the visible debuff, but it does debuff the enemies for ploy and exposure, and it builds up your special basically. So by the time you have Lindring active on turn 2, you're going to be having some special charge built up, and then from there you can nuke with the preempt pulse support or any kind of other support with creation pulse, and then, you know, quad attack with the Lindring. So it is quite potent with all of the things that we've got. And finally, we've got Jesse as a demote unit, and he's also the 4-star focus, so he's another sword infantry unit. We don't really know his stats. He does come with an inheritable weapon in Hexblade Sword Plus, so this gives you Omni +5 and true damage based on 10% of your attack, not added into the AoE special. And the main thing about this weapon is that it gives you the Hexblade status and the unhindered movement, so it inherently makes for a good weapon for a lot of the cavalry units to get past the trenches, and that is going to be the main use case of it. Outside of that, it's really not going to be measuring up to Doubler's Sword in my opinion when it comes to the pure stat stacking. But still the true damage can be helpful, but it's not that significant in my opinion compared to the monstrous weapons that we've got like Devoted Cup Plus, Stall Game Bow Plus, and the Spring Tome of Spring May. So all of those weapons are just going to be having a higher ceiling of true damage, And if you're waiting for a super modern sword, then I guess we have to wait for the third arcane sword. That's kind of overdue, along with the third arcane lance. And then he has got Moonbow, Speed Defense Ideal, Repel 3 as a prerequisite, but it's the pierceable damage reduction. So with that, we're going to be having the entire playable roster of Shadows of Valentia being playable in FE, and that is the second Fire Emblem game to have its entire playable roster after Awakening. So it is a milestone, and we're not counting the Cypher DLC characters because they're not recruitable in the normal story and they do not change story in any kind of way, and they're not even recruitable legally in 3DS now with the shop being dead. And they're not the Shadows of Valentia characters, they're Cypher. So the entire roster being present is there for the Shadows of Valentia fans, and Jedah is also going to be getting added as the Grand Hero Battle unit. Sadly, it doesn't look like he has a preferred weapon. He has got some weird crab tome. I mean, what is a crab tome going to be doing? I'm not sure. Dancing like that meme? It's kind of strange because if you look up the dictionary and the definition of a evil mage, Jedah is going to be showing up right there, and his image is going to be there even by the ancient historians. He is the gimmicky mage, and he does have a pretty cool and frustrating gimmick, I would argue, especially with the maps that you're given in Shadows of Valentia. So it's a bit sad that he doesn't get a preferred weapon. Validar also was a quote-unquote gimmick unit, but you know, his weapon is so good, it's consistent, and it gives you so much true damage. And even Solon got a preferred weapon, and then he got a pretty decent refine, all things considered. But Jedah here has to wait like, what, 4 or 5 years, I think, for his refine to stay in the line. So we don't really have any kind of instant demote out of this banner, and he is going to be the main free-to-play unit. So this banner overall is going to be coming up before the potential Emblem Hero banner, but still, it has got an incredibly powerful unit in Attuned Alm. As I said, one of the best nukes in the entire game because of the fact that he ignores the defensive specials and counters the shield fighter Far Saviors. So you could wait until we get the Emblem Hero banner trailer if that is going to be happening. For some reason, they have just put legendary / mythic / Emblem Hero in the calendar, so I guess they don't want to reveal if it's going to be an Emblem Hero or not, because I mean, everyone saves for the Emblem Hero. It doesn't matter your level of play or how seriously you take the game, they're just so valuable. So I think it's even more worth looking out for it now, as I do think that Emblem Roy could happen. So I'm going to be making a full video going over the best users of Arcane Nuibaba's tome, Medusa, and legally I'm obliged to upload the Rearmed Nuibaba video first. I have it complete, so expect that first, and then you know, Nuibaba's tier list. So I want to thank all of my 2 members for their constant support, and you can click the link on the screen right now to check out my breakdown of the new refines of this month, and make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell, because YouTube sub boxes are about as functional as shield fighter armors against Attuned Alm. So with that, see you guys next time. Thanks so much for watching and have a great day.